Hello, YouTube. My name is Helix. That's my name on Teppen. And this is probably gonna be like the only video I do, but I just wanted to discuss the new expansion, Devil's Awaken in Teppen, because I'm really excited about it. So right now, it is uh, October 29th, and Play Teppen just announced that they revealed some new cards for the expansion. So I just want to go through and discuss my thoughts on how those cards are and how they'll affect the meta. But before I get to the new card release, I'll probably talk about the prior updates they've done, which was basically revealing Nero and also having the new keywords added. So if we scroll down, we can see the cinematic trailer. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend you look it up on YouTube. It's pretty good. I like their rendition of "Pull My Devil Trigger" from Devil May Cry 5. Um, it's a pretty enjoyable trailer, and it some reason is very hokey, but it works. And down here they have the cinematic release campaign. By this time, the goals have all been reached, which has the Devil Awakens pack tickets, which basically gives you a free pack with these tickets. So you get 3 of those, and then 50 zenny, which really isn't much. But what you really want are those tickets, and they get you 3. So at launch, you'll get like 3 bonus plus whatever other rewards and achievements they hand out at the time. One of the more exciting things with this update in Devil's Awakens is the new hero Nero, as he'll be joining the fray. I'll just go over like his hero arts and how I think they're going to be used in the new meta. So the first one is Devil Breaker. This will basically give a unit +3 attack and spillover for 1 attack. Now, the way I think Nero will want to use this ability is like the best play for Nero to do is basically have a really strong high attack unit in the middle of the lane. And then when the unit is about to attack the hero, most of the strategies is to play a unit at the last minute. That way, your opponent will have less time to react to it. So I would say unless that unit has shield, giving that giving your middle unit +3 attack and spillover can be an effective pressure tool on your opponent. Because if they do that, they're also damaging the units on the sides, which are ones that they probably want to keep safe and don't want to die. For example, with a unit that has 5 attack in the middle lane that gets boosted by Devil Breaker, it'll be +3 and then spillover. So it'll have 8 attack. And with the spillover effect, it'll deal 4 additional damage to the units on the side of its initial target. So if it's in the middle, it can effectively deal 12 damage split on the board. And that could be pretty powerful. So I definitely see Nero possibly using this. It's going to be hard to tell if this will be the go-to hero art for Nero. That could be said for all of them. We'll just have to see as the meta evolves and the new cards are added and see how they work. But Devil Breaker is definitely one to watch out for. And as we can see in this demonstration video, mine now! Which is pretty cool. If you can see down here, actually let me get quality. If you can see down here, it does have 15 AP. So it's actually pretty cheap. It's actually the same cost of the unnerfed Dark Illusion, because Dark Illusion got buffed up to, I believe, 20. I believe it got buffed up to 20 Dark Illusions, or 20 or 22. I forget, but it definitely got nerfed. And at that cost for Morgan was pretty cheap, as he was able to abuse Dark Illusions pretty heavily, which kind of suppressed users from playing out too many units because they, were worried about being halted and then getting all their units destroyed. But now Morgan has to be a little more cautious of when to use it and when to not. But yeah, so this can be like, I think this art is supposed to be abused. So basically use it whenever you got it and feel like you can do a lot of damage with it. Because again, +3 attack is nothing to laugh about. Because that's a lot of damage. Like, That's still like a lot of additional damage being hit to the hero's face if the opponent decides not to block it because of fearing the spillover effect. But still, yeah, this is a and it's only effective for one attack, so it's not too broken, but it's still very effective. So anyway, going off to the second hero art, True Power. This will increase the level of a friendly unit with growth by 1. So growth is one of the new keywords in this expansion. I think I'll just come down here just to explain a little bit better so it'll make a little more sense. So basically growth requires a certain amount of growth points it will increase the level and grant new effects. So basically growth points are a new parameter in this expansion. So basically how it'll work is right down here. It explains. So basically, with a unit set, when the unit's card is played, it'll have growth and then have a number next to it. This number represents how many points it needs to level up, and the points are determined by the next unit played onto the field. So in this case, if you want to level up this card's effect, you need to play a unit that costs at least 3 MP, which is basically almost every unit in the game costs 3 MP, so that shouldn't be hard to do. This could actually be very effective with a turn 3 play if like the unit with growth 3 is also 3, so you can probably wait till turn 6, play the growth unit, and then play another 3 cost unit alongside it, and then you can immediately get this, in this case, this combo effect immediately, which could also be very good for your tempo on the field. But again, this can also overflow. So if you play something that costs 5, you'll basically get the level up and then you'll have plus 2 points for the next level up as well. But in this case, since this card only goes up to level 3, all you really need is just a 6 cost card to level this unit up fully. But again, the other thing that has to be kept in mind is that if that unit survives, because while yes, leveling up does give it great effects, it's still going to be out on the field and you have to protect it in order to get these effects. Because your opponent, as soon as they see a growth card on the field, their probably first priority is going to be getting rid of it. So this will be something, to keep in mind. And down here, like with the additional effects upon leveling up, it says the level ranges from 2 to 4 and a max level as well with the additional car effects. Now, so that basically means you can go from 2 to 4, and then there are max levels in between. So in this case, the max level would be 3. So after level 3, it is at max level. Now that is important for some other cards revealed in this set, which I'll get to later. And also quickly to go over the other new ability in the game, which I'm actually very excited for, is anti-air. This basically allows you to block units with flight, because in the last meta, flight was a huge issue, more so with Wrath Awoken, which is also getting nerfed. But it was just like, you couldn't do anything, and there weren't enough units for all classes to like deal with flight efficiently, especially with the whole Wrathalo spam of Wrath Awoken, quick attack, on a combo flight unit. It was just ridiculous. Like, it did too much burst damage too quickly. So having anti-air units, basically units that can block flight without having flight themselves, is actually great. So that'll be good. So anyway. So yeah, so that's where true power comes in. So basically, depending on the card, it can increase the level of a friend in the unit with growth by 1. And that can be very powerful in some cases, because you can basically like do a double level on a character if you time it correctly. Like you can gain 2 levels in like one quick succession, and that can be really devastating depending on the card's effect. Unfortunately, we haven't seen any cards in this set that has grants Veil yet, but I'm sure that might be one of them. But yeah, so another thing to keep in mind with this hero art is administration.
What's this?
It immediately goes up to level 2 from 1. Also, this thing is Nero's cheapest hero art. It only costs 12. So that's 3 less than Devil Breaker. So this will also be one that is spammable, but it won't be that much of a problem because it does require or has heavy reliance on growth. And the power of growth right now is not well determined, as you know, we haven't had experience with it, we haven't played it, we don't know how hard or difficult it is to keep growth units on the field for them to get their additional effects. So true power will have to be determined for later. But right now I do think it's pretty good. Like I said, if growth units effects are really strong and really powerful, this can be like a really easy way to cheat it out. Cheat out the strength of the card faster. Um, and then his last hero art is Hey Nico. I'm just gonna play the animation real quick because after that we'll go into the card she brings.
You're up, Nico. What the hell's your problem? Trying to kill me?
All right, so I like that little animation. That's what she did in DMC5. She would always, as soon as you get to a phone, she would just pop out of somewhere, walls, underground, in the air. Like Nico's flipping nuts. But yeah. So this is his most expensive, being at 17, which isn't too bad. I honestly thought this might be like an 18 at least, but 17 is not too bad. But yeah, so basically when you use Hey Nico, it randomly adds Gerbera, Ragtime, and Tomboy to your EX pocket. EX pocket. Now, it says add, so I don't think these cards count as Explore as with Jill's rocket launcher. So I don't think this would add to an Explore count. So if you think, doing an Explore deck with Nero using the Hey Nico power would help you, I don't think that's the case. I think it just simply adds it and doesn't necessarily explore for it. So here are the cards that Hey Nico will give you. Now these are all very powerful, and this is actually where some of my concern for Nero's balance may come into play. So we have Gerbera, and this is a 1 MP cost that deals 12 damage split among all enemy units. Now, again, this is a ridiculous effect. This is actually a Rathalos card in red. I think it costs 4 or 5. But basically, it allows them to do this exact same effect, but for a lot more MP. And this thing only costs 1, so you can actually do this in response to whatever your opponent plays. Like if let's say Wesker is trying to destroy one of your 2 cost units that are not 2 cost, but 2 attack or less units, and try and destroy it, you can literally counteract it with Gerbera and like wipe his entire board out, or wipe any other board out, or heck, even Rathalos. Like they're trying to buff their board, Gerbera, you just destroy it. Like they try and do 1 buff, you counter with this, and they can't do anything unless they have shield at the time. But I haven't seen that many Wrath Awoken decks using shield. I think they want to go more for the aggro and stuff, but that may change due to the recent nerfs, so who knows, and maybe the new cards they're going to get. But yeah, this is a ridiculous effect. But I do understand where they're going with this is in the balance, because it's a random card. You don't get this thing every single time, and it's random. And you also have to build up 17 AP, which isn't that cheap. It's like in the mid range of how expensive it is. So it does cost a lot to get this because you need the hero art, and then you need to play the card, which costs MP. So I understand where they're going with this in terms of balance, but it's still kind of shocking. Then Ragtime. Again, this is literally taking a hero art, like Morgan's hero art, and making it a card to play. So this one, Ragtime, it inflicts halt on all enemy units for 13 seconds. Again, very good ability. You can basically use this to stall out for time, or have your units safely destroy the opposing side without fear of counterattack. So yeah, this could be a great tool. And again, because of its low MP cost, you can possibly use it to counter when your opponent is trying to do an action with their own action cards. So very good card. Now here's the one that kind of makes me nervous about. So the last one you can get from Hey Nico is Tomboy. Now this costs 3, so it's the most expensive of the 3 to play. And then it says randomly increase the attack and HP of a friendly unit by a total of 10 points. Yikes. Okay, so this card is kind of ridiculous, but because of its nature and how I believe with the wording, it you choose a unit to get the buff, and then once you place it on there, it'll split the 10 points into either its attack or its HP. So you don't control that. So you can't put it all 10 points into attack, and you can't put all 10 points into health. But those are things that can happen, and that makes this thing very scary. So basically, you can have a unit just become like from a measly one attack unit to an 11 attack unit with this one card. It's kind of ridiculous. Um, so hopefully it's not as overpowered as I think. Like I said, this is the most expensive one from the Hey Nico set. Um, but again, it doesn't cost that much, and it's a very powerful buff. So we'll have to see. But yeah, very powerful. All right, so that does it with all the updates from the prior update. So now we can go down further and talk about the new cards that they revealed. They still have this video that they haven't released yet for the new card info. So I'm guessing this page will have more cards to reveal. Okay, I know that's unfortunately I looked at these cards beforehand, and I just want to start from the beginning to end. So okay, so we'll start here first. Empusa Queen. I think that's probably not how you say it, but Empusa Queen, 5 MP 2/7 with growth 3. Level 2 deals 2 damage to the enemy hero, and then at level 3 it gains +2/+2. I think this is basically the general strength of a growth unit will be, as it is a rare unit, like one step up from common. So I don't think it'll be that powerful, but who knows? But those stats are pretty easy to fill. I think the thing that might be holding it back is its 5 MP cost. That is quite a lot to put down. But since it's so durable with the 7 health, I think it can last long enough in order to get to level 3 at the bare minimum. I don't think this will go with Rathalos, so I think it'll either go into a Ryu Jill deck. I don't think Wrath at this time has any use for this type of card. But yeah, so I think this is like the base power level of like a general growth unit we'll have in this expansion. So the next one, Chill Penguin. Now this one is a little more threatening than Imposa Queen, in my opinion. Because basically, for this one, Chill Penguin, it's a 4 mana, 3/4. So basically, on turn 1, you can play it immediately. I wouldn't, but you can. But when it levels up, you basically get a shield, and then level 3, you get another shield, and then level 4, you deal 6 damage to a random enemy unit. That is very powerful. So not only is this unit like very durable with the shield, but it can also deal massive damage to a random enemy unit on the board, which is pretty great. So yeah, I do think this card will be played in some red and maybe some duo color decks because of the 4 mana cost. But this could be a great turn 7 play. So basically, you'll play the Chill Penguin first, and then you'll play a 3 cost MP unit along with it, and it'll immediately get the shield, which will protect it for you to build up your MP to get another shield with the next level up. And then on that 4th level up, you can probably time it to do 6 random damage to the enemy unit. But again, like I said before, it really depends on how sticky and how long these growth units can stay on the field. Like, you have to protect them if you want to get the full value out of them. But looking at Chill Penguin, I think he's like a very solid growth unit. So I think he will be played in most decks that are trying to run growth. Next, we have King Cerberus. He costs 6, has 2 attack and 8 health. So yeah, this one is actually the lowest growth cost we've seen so far. So basically 2. The way I think they're handling growth is the lower the MP cost on the unit is, the higher the growth requirement will be, and the lower and the lower the growth cost, the higher the MP cost. Like it's a vice versa type of effect. That's how I'm seeing how the growth cards are being handled in terms of power level. I think it kind of makes sense because you don't want a high MP cost unit to have a high growth effect because that'll be very hard to pull off, especially if it has a lot of levels to it. So anyway, going back to Keen Cerberus, so again, very low growth requirement. But once it goes to level 2, it'll get spillover. Unfortunately, at two with only 2 attack, spillover doesn't really seem worth it. Like it doesn't seem that powerful on King Cerberus. It's handy, but it's not really that good. So you'll definitely have to buff Cerberus to make use of that spillover effect. Level 3, however, it basically halts on a random enemy unit for 13 seconds. Now that is like the higher grade halt in the game, which is really good. So I do think the level 3 effect is much better than the spillover effect. And then lastly, level 4, it deals 4 damage to all enemy units, which is excellent. That is definitely a ability you want to go off on your opponent's board because it pressures your opponent to like deal with Cerberus soon, but with its high 8 health cost, it might be kind of hard to do. And again, the growth requirement is very easy. You can probably on turn 10, you can probably play Cerberus and then like a 4 cost unit, and you'll automatically like gain spillover, halt a random enemy unit, and then you just wait, and then you can deal 4 damage to their entire board, which is sounds great. So again, I think King Cerberus will be one of those decks that go into the experimental phase of like growth. Unfortunately, because of its 6 cost, it'll only be exclusively to red, so only Ryu, Rathalos, and Jill will have access to this card, but still, very good. It will need to be again. It will need to be buffed to use that spillover effect effectively. But other than that, I think it's a very solid card. Also, one thing I do like with this card is the theming of it, because if you guys don't know or haven't played DMC5, King Cerberus basically has 3 heads that have 3 elements to it. So basically, yeah, fire, lightning, and ice. And I like how it's kind of represented here. Spillover, like maybe being fire, the halt being represented by ice, and then deal damage to 4 being the electricity. At least that's how I see it. And I think it's really nice theming for King Cerberus. And so I do like that. Next is the Torchbearer Axel. This is the legendary red card in the set. Excuse me. 3 MP, 1 attack, 8 health. That's very good stats for this type of card because it'll live. Like you can play it and it'll live on the board for quite some time. And it only has 1 level to grow up from, and the growth cost is 3. But it's level 2. Once it gets to level 2, it is a very, very powerful effect. I cannot stress this enough. It is a very powerful effect if you manage to pull off or level up Axel. So basically, he turns into the unit in front of him and activates when played ability of that unit. So that can be like a lot of things. You can like basically copy. Like if you're also running Explore deck, you can copy like a enemy um, Claire card. That would probably wouldn't be the best use of it, but you can also copy like other like deal damage to random enemies, or like if you have a 4 cost 4 cost unit, take 1. Like you can do like a lot of things with the when played effects. And again, the growth cost is only 3, so this could be like a turn 6 play, or you can just leave him on the field. Like he will last with 8 health. Like he should be able to last with 8 health on the field, and it shouldn't be that hard. You can also use this to steal other explore effects. Like if someone plays a when played and gets an explore, you can use it Axel to steal it or like use it, like the stealth cards from Ada Wong. That would also be a great use for him. Like that gives you a stealth card without having to run purple deck. So I think Axel will definitely be used in the growth decks quite a bit, and he can be used has a lot of versatility and a lot of uses he can do. So yeah, I also like how he turns into the unit in front of him. You can kind of see him doing that in the artwork, which I thought was pretty cool. I don't know exactly who he's transforming into because it's a kind of an odd angle. Like the person he's turning into is kind of like facing away, like you only see axles in front, which should be the case because he's the main character. But I do like the artwork on that. Really nice. Next is Full Potential. Now this is basically a card that will rely on growth, and like I was said before, maximum growth will be a thing. So basically, three MP costs, but it will do 2 damage to an enemy unit. But if you have a friendly unit on the field that has reached maximum growth, it will deal 7. So basically 3 mana to deal 7 damage if you have a maximum growth unit on the field. Unfortunately, I'm not sure if this is worth it. Currently, right now, Guile is being run in most red decks because it comes with Detonation, and Detonation is a 2 mana cost for 6 damage. Now, while Guile has to die for you to get the Detonation off first, that's not a hard requirement to do, and you get a very powerful action card to use for the rest of your the match as it stays in your EX pocket until use. Um, However, with Full Potential, it does have kind of a hefty requirement depending on how the deck is built, as you need to have maximum growth units on the field for it to do 7 damage. So, and not to mention 3 MP cost to deal 2 damage. I'm not sure if that's worth it even at the non requirement cost. So I don't think Full Potential will see much play. I could be wrong. Again, I have no idea how this meta is going to turn out. It'll be very exciting. But I don't see Full Potential making the cut just because of its like heavy requirement. Now Fury. Now I think this is a card that Rathalos players are going to possibly use a lot in their decks. Like I said, I think the nerf to them has been good and justified, but I think this card will kind of help alleviate that nerf. So basically, it gives +2 to a unit, and it also gives them a death effect, where basically when that unit dies, you basically get the card back for free, and it goes into your EX pocket. So basically, it gives Rathalos a permanent buff card to always have on them at all times. I think that will be good. It could allow Rathalos to just run Fury and less buff effects, especially since Wrath Awoken will not be scaling as high with the multiple buff effects they're using. So I think having maybe 1 or 2 Furies in the deck and then substituting some other buff cards in the deck for like better units and stuff might be like the game plan they're going to go for. Again, I'm not sure. I don't really play Wrath Awoken too much, but I could definitely see this being used for them, as they'll always have a buff card. And I also don't think they use the EX pocket for much of anything. So just having this for like free every single time the unit with it dies, it basically means they're always playing action cards, which can actually be very beneficial for Ryu. Again, I don't think you would play it in the Wrath Awoken deck because they're usually dual colors. But again, this is like another card you can possibly play for Ryu to build up those actions really quickly. Like you'll always have one ready to go, and you can pump up Ryu to do the his effect when attacking, which is pretty devastating. All right, now we're moving on to the green cards. So Nidhogg, he is a 3 mana 1/6. Again, very good stats if you want to have a unit survive. And again, this is where I was talking about where I think the low MP cost cards will have higher growth requirements. But I'm not sure if Nidhogg is really that type of unit. So he does come naturally with combo, but his growth effects give him +2 health and +2 attack. But it does require at least 5 levels for it to level up. So one thing I can see this working with is you play him early, and then you play another card that we're going to get to soon enough, and that will basically give him the extra health, and then you can probably build up into the attack using like other units. Because I don't think you want to have Nidhogg out for too long by himself, because I think you'll need other units to support him, and you don't want to put all your eggs in one basket, as they say. But with the combo, he could potentially become a 3/8 with combo, which is actually good for 3. But it just depends on whether or not he can survive that long, and whether the opponent will deal with him quickly or inefficiently or not. But he seems to be a good base card, maybe like a good starter card for like other growth effects as well. Um, so anyway, now here is a really good card, which I think will establish that growth will be the green card, or growth will be like associated with green, and green will be the best to do growth stuff with. So Eva is a 3 mana 2/4, and when played gives +2 growth points to a random friendly unit with growth. Now, what this means is that if you have a unit on the field with growth and you play Eva, not only will she give it +2 growth points, but also the MP cost on Eva will also be added to those growth points. So in total, if you play Eva on a single growth unit, it will give it +5 for 3. It will give it +5 growth points for 3. So that's like almost an immediate level up for like most of the units in this that we have seen so far. It can actually level up Nidhogg by himself. So if you play Nidhogg and then Eva, bam, he is a 1/8 right off the bat for 6. That can be really good. So I really think Eva is going to be one of those staple cards in the growth green decks, and or dual colors too, because again, it has a very cheap or it's a very cheap cost, so it can definitely be played in dual color decks. So very good card. Will definitely be played a lot. Okay, so now we have God Car Machine O in Array. My God, a mouthful. Now this one is actually pretty interesting. It is a 7 cost 3/9 with Heavy Pierce and Veil. Now, one thing I think Mega Man and Chun Li have struggled with is not being able to protect their units and also being very slow. Um, this card, while it is 7 costs and slow, it has Veil, which is a very, very powerful effect, meaning it cannot be targeted. So basically, if you want, you can possibly buff this card safely, and it also comes with the heavy pierce. So basically, it'll deal its full damage. Like if it kills a unit, it'll deal its full damage to the enemy hero. So it'll be a threat, and your opponent will have to deal with this. And it'll have struggles dealing with it because the only way I can see an opponent dealing with this is like just blocking it, or with a assist of a random effect, like basically randomly destroying or randomly halting, and then Darkest Illusion or random damage. That's the only way you're going to be able to deal with this card. You cannot target it with any like hero arts or action cards. You have to rely on random effects. But with that 9 health, that's a lot to go through, especially if you're trying to hit it with random damage. That is a lot of health to go through. And again, you're green. So you're gonna have buff cards. You're gonna have health buff cards, and you're also gonna have shields. So you're gonna be able to protect this guy. So I think he has a chance. I think this high cost 7 cost card has a chance to do some good. Has a chance to be really good. And the fact that you can have 3 of them in your deck, again, maybe. I think I can see it potentially working in Yon Chun-Li. And maybe in Charge Shot Mega Man. But god dang, Mega Man needs some help. Alright, Awaken Power. This is the card I was talking about before when we were on Nidhogg. So basically, this card will allow you to give growth, +5 growth points to a friendly unit with growth. So again, if you combo this with a card like Nidhogg, you can basically get it to max. If you're lucky enough and you get 2 Awaken Powers in your starting hand along with Nidhogg, you could potentially have a turn 5 or 5 MP. At 5 MP, you can potentially have um, a 3 attack, 8 health combo card at 5 MP. Yeah, with this card alone. I'm not sure if Nidhogg is the one card you want to use this on, but that is an option. We haven't seen, again, all the growth cards yet, but this is definitely a card that will help with that. And not to mention with Nero's True Power Art, which can just immediately raise 1 level. Again, green will be the place to go with heavy with heavy growth effects because they seem to have the cards to support it the most. So far, anyway. With Eva and Awaken Power, very hard to compete. So definitely going to be if you're going to see any growth decks, it's definitely going to be green with another color or just plain green. Anyway, Wind Armor, 2 mana cost card, basically grants the Kushala Del Or Legendary's effect of reducing the damage of 3 or less to 1, but it also has the added effect that if the unit has growth, it gives it +1/+1. There's already a card in the game that does this effect. I think it's also for 2. I think it's also for 2 for this exact same effect, but this one has the benefit that if the unit has growth, it also buffs them. So, but the problem is that card specifically has not seen that much play, but that could also be attributed that green has not seen that much play. Unfortunately, I think in the last meta, it was really easy for other units or other decks to buff their cards above 3 to where the effect of reducing the damage is negligible. Especially with Rathalos. Like, they do not care about this effect because they're just going to keep buffing cards and then, like, shred through this. The reason I think Kushala the Ore works with this, though, is because it has a high health pool and it also has fly. Um, but again, there was a card that basically did the same effect. So I don't think this card is going to make a splash. I don't think this card is going to do anything in the meta because again, a card very similar to it is not being heavily played right now. I experimented with that card too, but I just just everyone's running buffs, so it's kind of hard to defend this. So yeah. 17th Elite Unit. Now, this is a card that I find very interesting. So, 5 cost, and basically gives all your fighting units +1/+2. And also grants victory +1/+2 to friendly units with growth. So basically, this thing is an AoE board buff. And if you have growth units on the field, they gain victory, which is a very good effect. So this could be very powerful if set up correctly. Again, it really stems on whether growth units can stay on the board long enough to get their growth effects and last. But other than that, this is a very powerful buff card. Um, like I can actually see it like maybe working with the card that summons in all the Jaggies, the 2/2s. I can maybe see it with that as a quick way to get early board presence, or with the Felicias. That's pretty good because those cards have been shown to last quite a bit with their 2/5 health stats. But yeah, again, this card's viability, it'll be very dependent on whether growth is good or not, and whether they can stick on the board. That's the thing growth is going to have to prove itself in, I should say. Like, like these growth units, like their level up and their effects do not matter if they just die. Because if you play King Cerberus and then Wesker kills it, or Nergigante kills it with their card or their plethora of destroy cards, it's not gonna matter. But yeah. But again, giving victory to a unit is very powerful, and buffing them as well is also very good. You can possibly use this to also counter any action cards used against your units. So yeah, this again depend on the victory effect. Wary, but it is a good buff effect. I'm not sure if we'll see that much play. Maybe a 1 or 2 of in a deck, but definitely not 3. Okay, now we're moving on to purples. Catch a Watcha. It is a 3 mana 2/5, so very cheap. This one has a little lower in the growth pool. In the growth pool, only requiring 3 to level up, but it basically gains flight, so it'll basically become a flying unit, and then it'll inflict halt on a random enemy unit for 13 seconds after the second level up. So again, that's this is not a bad card, and I think Morgan can use it. Morgan or maybe Dante. I have no idea what Dante's doing in the meta right now. Actually, that boy needs help, and they are buffing him. But I don't know, man. Dante needs help. But yeah. So basically, gains flight. For the first level up, and then he halts a random enemy unit for the second level. These are okay effects. I think it's similar to the Resonate Ibuki that gains flight. But it also comes with the benefit of halting a random enemy unit as well. So yeah, he could see play. He could also be used to like block other flyers if you play him with another 3-cost card or another card while he's on the field. So yeah, he could have potential. I'm not sure if he fits because right now, for Morgan is the place to be. So maybe Dante can use him, but I don't know. Speaking of for Morgan, speaking of for Morgan, Hell Antenora. Hope I'm saying that right. I played the game, but I do not know how to pronounce these guys' names. So anyway, 4 MP 2/5. Again, just the fact that it costs 4, Morgan's going to look at this card and probably put it in the deck. So taking damage to self. So when it takes damage, it will deal damage equivalent to its own attack to a random enemy unit. And this has just been an auto include in every 4 Morgan deck. The effect is great. You can basically play him on the field to start activating your other 4 cost effect cards, and the fact that when he takes damage, he could potentially deal 4 damage to an opposing unit just because he's getting attacked makes him great. So yeah, like this card is going to be included in for Morgan. No doubt. There are already other 4 mana costs, 4 costs, 2/5 unit decks in those other decks that also have very powerful effects. And I think this is a very good activator for Morgan. Like this is like a really, really good effect. The only bad side I can think this could happen is maybe activating um, a death on a enemy unit that you don't want to proc yet. That's the only thing I can think of. Like maybe a tyrant, like you activate a tyrant sooner than you can deal with it. That's my only guess. But other than that, this is probably gonna be an auto include in for Morgan. Um, very very powerful card. Next we have Dante and his Devil May Cry 5 form. Shouldn't really say form, just him and Devil May Cry 5. And appropriately, he costs 5. He is a 5 MP 1/7 cost card. He has growth 3, so he needs, at least 3 to level up. And he gains combo, and at level 3 he gains 3 plus 4. This is actually a very good growth card in my opinion. Because of its 5 cost nature, it could possibly be run in a dual color growth deck. And the effect itself is not bad. He gains combo, and then if you level him up one more time, which with that cost shouldn't be that hard, he will become a 4. He'll become a 4/11. Like if he's absolutely not touched in the time that you need to level him up all the way, he'll be a 4/11 with combo, which can be very devastating and very scary, especially with cards like Nash, which are 3/9s that are very scary. Yeah. So Dante does have some chances of being a good card, but again, like I said before, it really, really depends on whether or not the growth mechanic works in this meta. But I could totally see Dante maybe fitting into a purple green Nero deck because with true power and the Awaken power abilities, that can easily level up Dante to level 3 very quickly. So yeah, Dante might have a chance. He seems like he could be a very good and dangerous late game card to play. So we shall see. I definitely wouldn't think of like playing him early, otherwise he's just gonna die because 1/7's not gonna do that much until you start playing other cards to level him up. Now we have Matsu coming from Monster Hunter. He is a 8 cost 2/8. Doesn't seem that great based on those stats, but he does have flight, and when he attacks, he will inflict halt on a random enemy unit for 5 seconds. And then he has Resonate, where he will deal 5 damage to all enemy units with halt status. So that seems pretty good. The only issue I see with it is because it's a resonate effect. You can't necessarily like halt their entire field with halt cards. and then he'll do 5 damage to all of them because the effects will not resolve until they're all resolved. Um, so basically, the way this card is supposed to work is that you attack first. So when you attack something, whether it be the hero or another enemy unit, you inflict halt, and then after that, you want to play a action card for it to activate and deal 5 damage to the other units. So maybe I can see this like where you basically have the board already set up with all the halt statuses that you want. Then you would play Amatsu, and then you would play like a quick action card, like the one that lets you draw one and puts it in your EX pocket, and then you deal 5 damage to all enemy units. And if they're still up for some reason, and your opponent is stupid enough to play an action card after you did that, you can play another action card and just wipe the board. The fact that he has flight means he'll be taking less damage during trades because he'll only be blocked by anti-air or another flight card. So that does give him an advantage of lasting longer on the field. Again, though, because of his high MP cost, I'm not sure what deck he's supposed to fit in. Because he won't definitely fit in 4 Morgan, I don't think. Maybe he could fit in a resonate deck. Actually, maybe with Dante with the double resonate effect. You'll deal 10 damage. You'll deal 10 damage to all enemy units on the field every with hold status. So, ooh, maybe that can work. But again, that's just theory crafting. Amatsu might be too expensive for purple to even run. Unfortunately, I do not. I'm not sure if they can use this card to its great effect. It does have strong effects, but I'm not sure. Uh, I'm not sure if it can survive. Again, we'll have to see what other cards they do to maybe help support this. Maybe a card that basically has death, halt all enemy units for 5 seconds. Maybe something like that will help. Now this is actually an interesting card. Soul's Return. So basically, this card is kind of similar to the one that Wesker, or I should say Black's got, the Black archetype got, um, where basically they have a card that basically wipes the entire board and then plays cards from their graveyard. This is kind of similar, as in it's a board wipe. It literally is a board wipe for purple. So and it returns all to their effective decks. So this could actually be a really nice counter to actually a lot of things like buff Rathalos, Ouroboros, Wesker, let's see who else. Like basically, yeah, it can just be like a really good. This is a very good card. I do think it has a chance of seeing play because if purple is falling behind for whatever reason, they can literally hold out for the turn 8 or the 5 MP play and play this. And as of right now, I don't think there's any card in the game that can negate an 8 cost effect. I know there's one for 6 that reduces your health by half, but I don't think it can stop this. So you can basically play this uncontestedly and basically return all units to their respective decks. Now this could be really good against Wesker because he basically thrives on things going to his graveyard, and if you deprive him of that, he'll have less stuff to manage. But yeah, I do think this will have a place in purple. I'm not sure which deck. I'm not sure if War Morgan needs this, but maybe they do. Maybe they do. I'll definitely try it out. And I think this is the last purple card before we get into black. This is the Outriders. Flippin' love V. I can't wait to see his card. But anyway, so 4 cost, the Outriders. Return an enemy unit with 2 or less attack to their EX pocket. If the friendly units have leveled up 5 times or more, return a single enemy unit to their EX pocket instead. So, okay, so ignoring its level up effect, like basically when you get the level ups on your other units with growth, ignoring that, I think returning a unit with 2 or less attack to their EX pocket could be worth it, especially going after like low attack but high effect cards in the game that we've been seeing a lot of. The 4 cost though is very expensive to play to do that, but in cases of emergencies, I think you can play it for that 2 or less attack effect. But if you do level it up, it's basically 4 mana, return an enemy unit. That is crazy, and that is very powerful. You can literally use this to counter a high cost play. So if someone plays like their Rathalos King or a Devil Joe or Ryu, Chun Li's, like all those high cost MP cards, like if you return that with just costing 4, you can literally screw up the enemy's tempo. Heck, I wouldn't even be surprised that if you play this on a Wesker's Devil Joe, if you play this card against them, they might concede. They literally might concede because they wasted 8 MP for you to like mess it up. Okay. So yeah, I do think this card definitely has a chance to play, but I don't think it will work in the growth. I'm sorry, I don't think this will work in for Morgan, and it would have to be like an entirely new deck for it, involving growth. Anyway, now we're moving on to the black cards. So Killer B, not Chun Li, Killer B. Um, so basically, I'm sorry, did I say Cammy White? I think I said Chun Li. I'm sorry. Anyway, so Killer B, 5 MP, 5 attack, 3 HP. Victory, destroy a random enemy unit with an MP cost of 4 or less. Now, that is actually a very powerful victory effect. Very powerful. The problem is this thing, while it has very high attack, it also has pathetically low health. So the problem I see with this card is getting that kill, because you have to be very selective of which unit to hit with this in order to get that effect to proc first. So my only theory on like making this card work and supporting it is basically buffing it with like what is it? Psycho Power, the 2 cost +2/+2. That will make it a 7/5, which is a lot better health stats and kill power, so it can probably proc its victory effect a lot better. Um, it doesn't seem that bad, but or actually, on a better idea I just thought of. You can actually maybe, I think this is probably maybe the intention of this card. You can probably combine it with the M Bison card that costs 10 and returns a 5 cost card from your graveyard back into your EX pocket, but with like +2/+2 stats. So maybe that's the intention of Killer B. Like maybe instead of having Devil Joes in the deck, you now have M Bisons in the deck, and you use Killer B with it. Although with the new Ouroboros chains, I'm not sure how well M Bison might work. We'll have to see. But maybe that's the intention of this card. Again, I'm not sure if this card will work. The health pool is really going to be a problem for this card. It can probably work and maybe kill 2 units, but we'll have to see. If anything, I think this might be a counter to for Morgan, because if they steal one of your cards with the I card, man, I'm forgetting all the cards' name, but the I card, you can actually put Killer B in front of that card, kill it, and then possibly kill the other 4 unit, putting Morgan at a deficit, and they have to play another 4 card to activate their 4 chain again. So it might have use. This may be a counter to for Morgan, but again, that's like one situation against one deck. Not a bad card, but we'll have to see. Now this is a very interesting card. Double, 5 cost, 110, very high stat line, which is very good. And it has MP boost 20. So we have the first non-green MP boost card in the game. So this is kind of interesting. So maybe other classes will now get MP boost added to their repertoire. So double, it has MP boost 20, which isn't the best, but it's something. It's definitely something. But it has growth 5. It loses its MP boost, but it gains +2 attack. So essentially, it can become a 3/10 attack. What's interesting about this card, though, is that when you play it for 5, you get the MP boost, which will obviously boost your MP rate by 20%, which helps you get to that growth cap. So Yeah, this will be a very interesting card for black. It might be good for like dual black decks, maybe most likely. Um, but yeah, but again, you have to watch out because as soon as you get that growth effect, you lose that MP boost, and you instead make it an attacker. So we'll have to see. But again, very interesting card. I'm liking how Teppen is shaking things up. Uh, okay, now this one is okay. This is a little personal bias. I really like Dalamadur from the Monster Hunter series. Me and my friends fought it a lot. I consider it one of my favorite Elder Dragons. I like the boss fight. I liked its other form, which I won't mention for spoilers. But yeah, Dalamadur, great monster. Love this thing. But anyway, back to the actual car stats itself. It is ridiculous stat wise. Seven, seven stat, 120. Wow. Okay. This is basically the card you put in front of something to like not worry about it for the rest of the game. I can honestly see you putting this in front of something like really weak, like a green MP booster, and you just leave it there because its effect is ridiculous, but it's very costly to get to. Um, so it is destroy all enemy units, and that is only for it to level up once, and that's all it needs, and it destroys everything. That is pretty ridiculous. Again, you'll have to time it appropriately. You can't just play this thing out and then play another card with it and then get the effect. No, you need to play 20 um, MP costs worth of units in order for that effect to go off. But if you do get it off, you basically wipe the entire board. Um, so at minimum, again at minimum, you would have like I'm just trying to think of the most realistic situation this could maybe happen. Like maybe you play you play this and then you play like maybe a 3 cost. After that, you maybe play a 4 cost. That would be 7. Yeah, like this card is meant to last on the board, so I think like maybe just ignore the level up effect and just use it as a wall. Use it as a very sturdy, stubborn wall your opponent has to get through if they want to attack you. And don't put it in front of a flight unit. That's all I'm gonna say. But yeah, Dalamadur seems very interesting. It'll be pretty crazy to get that destroy all effect up, but there is actually one more or another card in this card reveal that might actually help Dalamadur reach that goal a lot faster. Although it's kind of risky, but you know when you're desperate, you're going to be desperate about it. Now this is the legendary Tainted King Val Hazak. I'm actually kind of it's probably before the that other version of Al Hazak was revealed, but you know, I thought they would have gone with the other Val Hazak they revealed in Iceborne. I won't say it just for spoilers. So a 7 cost, 0/10. On paper, that sounds horrible, but it actually has a ridiculous effect. When placed on the field, gains +1 attack for every unit in both graveyards. Yikes. Okay. Even though you can put this in a revenge deck. You can totally put this in a revenge deck and it'll still have ridiculous stats because you're sending all your opponent's units into the graveyard. Unless they're also running revenge. But most of the time, that's not going to happen. So this card is definitely going to be a threat as soon as you play it on the board. Going to be ridiculously strong based on just your opponent's graveyard alone. Like you don't even have to consider yours. Like having this on the field. Oh, another thing that's actually really interesting with this is that it says when placed on the field. So you don't even have to play it from your hand. It's when it's placed. So you can actually Ouroboros this card and it'll gain all the attack. So that's actually really good. And actually, I honestly think this might be the reason why they nerfed Ouroboros. Actually, it probably wasn't for Devil Joe. It's probably for this guy. Because could you imagine just summoning like a 10/10 every time Ouroboros was up, or every time you had a rebirth? Yeah, that probably wouldn't have sat well with the balance team. But yeah, that's another thing. You can probably like shove this guy into the graveyard and bring him out with rebirth, and then you have something 9 creature on the field with good stats because of the graveyard. But again, it will be dependent on how much stuff you kill on your side and on their side. But that shouldn't be a problem because you're running black, and black is all about destroying graveyards. So, yeah, this card is definitely going to be really good. Really, really good. I'm not sure if it will replace Joe's. I'm not sure if it will replace Joe's in an Ouroboros deck, but it could be like maybe a different archetype of the Ouroboros deck. Um, yeah. All right, and here is the card I was hinting at before, Desperate Act. It's a one cost action card where basically it gives +6 growth points to a friendly unit with growth, but also also grants that unit destroy after attacking once. So that kind of sucks. So basically you're getting the growth points, but the problem is the unit after one attack is going to die. So unless that growth effect is kind of like Dalamadur's, where it's basically destroy everything on your opponent's field, I'm not sure if this will be worth it. Again, we'll have to see more growth cards that could be played with this, because having your unit destroyed and also investing growth points into them doesn't seem like the best idea. But again, Desperate Act, you're basically just trying to get the level up for whatever reason. Again, the only card I see this working on very well is with Dalamadur and that destroy all enemy effect. So yeah. And then the last card I believe for black is going to be the legendary action card, Forbidden Fruit. So with this card, it's kind of interesting. It's I'll say this, it's risky. This card is risky as hell. But it could be very beneficial to the card you're buffing. It just depends on which. So basically, it gives a friendly unit +3 attack, but it also gives it damage taken by this unit is taken by your hero instead. So basically, what that means is the card that you buff with this is going to take, whenever it takes damage, it will be dealt to your hero instead. So it's basically like the unit's not even there. It will be like basically if the unit's not even there. So that could be a problem because, like, if you consider like red, for instance, they have a lot of high damage single target cards. Like Detonate, that's 6 damage to your face right there. They can use that several times if they have enough guiles that died and are have enough guiles that died and are in their hands on that turn. So this is a risky card. This could actually get you killed very easily. The only way I can see this as working out is if your opponent doesn't have an answer and they have like a super buffed up card that can't be hurt in any other way for like up to 3 times. So it basically has like 3 shields, but the shield is not a shield, it's your face. So yeah. Um, Risky card. We'll have to see what other cards they release in this expansion to support this crazy effect. So yeah. Oh, damage. Okay, so yeah, I think if a unit has shield, it won't proc the up to 3 times on the damage taken by your hero effect. Like, I think the unit actually has to be hurt for that thing to go down. But again, that's like only 3 times. So I think if you time it correctly, you can maybe get like maybe the first proc off on a 1 attack unit and only take 1 damage. But again, that's situational, risky, and you have to play an action card for this to work, and your opponent might kill it, and then, you know, the effect doesn't go off, and then you wasted a spot in your deck for this thing. So, yeah. Interesting card. Again, we'll have to see how they support it. And I believe that is it. Yep, we're back to the queen. So, yeah. So yeah, that is all the cards. They're going to be releasing a deck introduction later on in the week and possibly a video and maybe more cards in between. Yeah, cannot wait for expansion. And like I said, this is like one of my first and maybe only videos. I just really wanted to talk about this expansion, share my thoughts on the cards they revealed today. Very excited, cannot wait to play. I recently got into the Champions League. I'm using a Wesker deck. I think you know which one I used, but I had a lot of fun with it, and a lot of the matches later on were not easy, even with that deck, but yeah. All right. So yeah, cannot wait for expansion. All these cards seems pretty interesting, and are going to shake up the meta just like the prior one did. So yeah, thank you for watching, and goodbye.